Okay, so we're going to go ahead and create kind of just a generic subclass and superclass, or superclass and subclass, and then a demo to run those two classes, okay? All right, so we're in our hello package. We're going to right-click on the hello package. We're going to go new class. Okay, now previously you've always put in this public static void main, right? So it's a public method. It's static. It means it's shared by the class, not the particular object, okay? And void means it doesn't return anything. Main means it's the default method that's run when the program is run, right? But we don't want that in this case, okay? So we want to uncheck the public static void main, but we do want to put in the constructors from Superclass, okay? And we're going to name this file, we're just going to name it Superclass, okay? So this is the parent class, Superclass. You know, this is the one that's going to get inherited from, right? So we have Superclass, we click Finish. Okay, so we have this superclass.java, right? So we have a few things here, right? We have the name is superclass.java. It says package hello, right? So that's the package name, the folder that it's in. We have a public class of superclass, and then we have this constructor method. So remember, the difference between a regular method and a constructor is that there's no return value, right? So normally you'd have to say, like, you can put public, right? It's automatically public, but you can put public. Then you would put like void if it's not returning anything, or string if it's returning a string. For a constructor, you don't put anything, okay? Now we're just going to put in this keyword super, okay? That just means that, you know, every class in Java is derived from another class, right? So that just means it calls a constructor of the parent class. That will automatically put this in. You don't actually have to write it. It will automatically call it. But we don't like implicit stuff in general when we're starting out. We want to be explicit. It means we want to put everything in if it's happening, as much as we can, just to remember. Okay, so we have our constructor, this superclass, right? Okay, now we're going to put in our first, you know, we use the three terms synonymous, right? An attribute, a property, a field, okay? And that's just, we're just going to call that the object message, okay? That's going to be the name of our string, okay? So we're going to call it a string. It's a, you know, a variable of type string, right? And we're going to say, we're going to type in there, this is the original superclass message. Okay, so that's going to be our initial message, right? Okay, so we have our one, you know, if we was writing a class on like dogs, for example, this would be string color, right? I'd have another one, string name. I'd have another one, int weight, or int age, or double age, okay? So these are my attributes of the superclass, right? I could have as many as I wanted, okay? Now we're going to go ahead and write a method. Now all this is going to be a really simple class, so all we're going to do is write a get method and a set method for this message, okay, that we have, right? And all the class is going to do is print out the message. That's it, all right? Okay, so we're going to put get up, so we have our public keyword, right? That means we can call it anywhere. We have our void keyword, that means it's not returning anything. Then we have the name of the method. In this case, we're going to say get message, okay? And we're just going to write in the stubs for now, all right? So we hit enter, gives me kind of the initial thing. I'm just going to copy and then paste it, and then change it to set. Okay, so we have our two methods here, right? We have get message and set message. Okay, now, so get message, we want to go ahead and just print something out, right? So we have our system out print line, okay, and then in print line it's going to be, okay, and in print line all I'm going to do is I'm going to say this is the super class message, okay, all right, and then I'm going to go ahead and print my object message, right? Okay, so that's basically all I'm going to do. On get message, I'm just going to print a line out. It says this is the superclass message, and then print the object message, right? Okay, for set message, I need to take something in, right? I need to like send it a message, right? So I'm going to put a parameter in. It's going to be string, right? So I have to put the type of thing that I'm sending into it. And then I have to put the name of the thing I'm sending. So I'm going to call it new message. Okay, that's going to be the name of the parameter that I'm sending in. Okay, and all I'm going to do in here is I'm just going to set object message to be new message. Okay, that's it. All right, so now it knows, Java's going to know that when I say object message, I'm talking about the variable named object message that's part of this object, right? Now, to be more specific, I could put the this keyword. I actually like using the this keyword. This means this object, right? Okay. In this case, right here, we don't need to necessarily do that because it's so simple, right? So we have object message here. When we call the set message method, we're going to send it new message, and that's in the set message method is going to assign the string that we sent it as the object message. Okay? Super simple, right? Okay, so that's our superclass. All right, now we're going to go ahead and create a subclass. Okay, so we have our initial class, right? Okay, this is our superclass, right? Now we're going to create our subclass. So if this was a class dog, like dog would be the superclass, right? Now I'd be creating like Chihuahua or German Shepherd. That would be the subclass, right? So I'm going to go new class. Remember, I don't check public static void main. I'm just going to call this subclass. Okay, and I'm going to go ahead and click finish. Okay, so now I have this subclass.java. Notice it has package hello, it has public class subclass, and then it has this constructor subclass. I'm just going to go ahead and put in super there. Okay, just so we know to call the constructor method of the parent class or the superclass, right? Okay, so now let's think about what I actually need to put in subclass. All right, now first of all, I need to make it a subclass of a superclass. So the first thing I'm going to do is put this extends keyword. So extends right next to public class subclass. I'm going to put extends, and then I'm going to put superclass. Okay. All right. So that right there, that extends keyword, that's what makes it a subclass of the superclass right there. Okay. And that will cause it to inherit everything from the superclass. All right. So the next thing we're going to do is go ahead and think about what we need to change in this subclass. So let's take a look back at the superclass. So the object message is already going to be declared. We don't need to declare it again unless we want to change it to the default. Now in the real world, we'd probably want to change this to a different default message. So we could redeclare it in the subclass. We don't need to write the set message method again because it just does the same thing. Whatever we send it in, it just sets that object message in whatever objects it's in to be the new message, right? So we don't need to rewrite that. But when we call get message, we don't want it to print out this is the superclass message. We want it to print out this is the subclass message. So whatever code is different for the subclass, that's what we want to override. That's what we want to change, right? Okay, so that's the thing I want to change. So I'm going to go ahead and copy it out of the superclass. Whether you can copy it or not just depends on how different it is, right? Okay. So I can put, instead of superclass, I'm going to change this to subclass. So my message is going to be when I call get message on this subclass, it's going to print out this is the subclass message and whatever object message is there. Okay. All right. Now, in general, it would be common in a superclass not to have anything in here. Like I would just put string object message. That would be like an empty string. I would put void get message, but there would be nothing in that method, right? This line wouldn't be here, right? That would be very common, just to like declare the method in the superclass, but not have any code inside of it, right? Okay, but here we're actually going to put code in the superclass. Okay, so we have our two classes now. Basically, that's everything we need. So we have a superclass and a subclass, right? Okay, notice the subclass, we didn't have to declare everything again. We only put what we wanted to be different in the subclass, right? Okay, so now we're going to create, so now we have like our patterns, right? Imagine we have our cookie cutters now. Now we can create as many cookies as we want, but we don't have any cookies yet, right? What we've got is cookie cutters, all right? So the class files, the class decorations are the patterns. They're the cookie cutters, right? Okay, now we have to create the file that's actually going to make the cookies. You guys see the difference? Okay, so we have patterns. We don't have the actual thing yet, all right? Okay, So we're going to create a new class, a third class, right? So this is going to be like our demo, okay? Now in this one, we do want this public static void main, because this is what's actually going to run. It's the program that's going to actually run, right? Okay, so this we're going to call Superclass, Superclass Subclass Demo. We're going to click Finish. Okay, so now we're back to kind of what we're used to. We have our package hello, we have our public class, superclass, subclass demo, and we have our public static void main, right? So that's the thing that's automatically going to run when we run the program. All right, now I've written a little bit of demo code, which I'm going to copy and paste in. Okay, you'd have to type this in, but we'll go line by line here. Okay, so this is my kind of my demo code. So the first line here, in the first two lines, I'm going to actually create my objects. Okay, so I say superclass, my superclass object. So my superclass object, that's the name of the object. That's the cookie. Okay, I'm taking my cookie cutter and I'm making a cookie on this line. Okay, right? So my superclass object is the cookie, right? It's the thing I've made. It's the object, right? I've used my superclass class as the pattern to make the object, right? Okay, so superclass, my superclass object equals new, and then I call the constructor method superclass with parentheses after, right? Then I do the same thing for subclass. So I make a subclass cookie, right? I make the object out of the subclass class, the pattern. All right, so subclass, my subclass object equals new subclass. So now I have two objects. After this line, I've created the cookies, right? I have the two actual objects made from the patterns, right? Now I can start to call the methods that they contain. All right, so next I call my superclass object get message, my subclass object get message. Okay, so let's see what happens when I run that. All right, so I'm going to go ahead and run it. Okay, and here's what I get as printout, right? I get this is the superclass message, and then after it I get this is the original superclass message. Okay, then I get on this next line, right here, the output for that is this is the subclass message, and then this is the original superclass message, right? Because it's inherited the message from the superclass, right? I haven't changed it at all. It inherited that message from the superclass. I haven't changed it at all yet. Okay, so it's the original pattern object, right? Okay, now what I'm going to do is I'm going to put in I'm going to call that set message on both of my objects, right? So I call the set message on my superclass object, and I call the set message on my subclass object. For the superclass, I put, hey you, this is a superclass. And for my subclass object, I send the message, hey you, this is a subclass. All right, so now I'm calling the set message methods on both of those objects. All right, then I'm going to go ahead and print out the messages again. Okay, so then I call my superclass object dot get message, my subclass object dot get message. So I'm calling the get message again. Then I'm going to run it here. Okay, so I have the same exact output for the first two lines, and then my second two lines are this is a superclass message, hey you, this is a superclass. This is a subclass message, hey you, this is a subclass. Okay, so this is the basis of object-oriented programming, right? I make my pattern files, those are the class files, and then I use those classes in a program to actually do something. Okay, so if I was creating like a dog superclass and subclass, in dog I would declare all of the fields, like the attributes, like color, age, everything like that. But they would probably be just empty values, right? I would just declare them in the superclass. I would declare all my methods, all my get and set methods, okay? If I could, like the set methods, if they're going to be common for all the subclasses, I might just define them there in the superclass, if they're going to be the same for all the subclass methods. If I had methods that I wanted to use in all of my subclasses, like say I wanted to display a picture or play a sound, that would go in the superclass. All right, if it was going to be the same for all the subclasses, that would all go in the superclass file. Okay. However, if I wanted to say display a different picture for every type of dog, then that would go, I would declare the display picture or bark, for example. If I wanted to play a sound bark, I'd put the bark method in the superclass, but it would be empty. There would be nothing in it in the superclass. And then, just like we did with getMessage, in the subclass, I would rewrite the bark method, but in this case, I would send it some other, I would call the play sound, but I'd send it some other sound file, right? It'd be specific to the subclass. You guys getting it a little bit clearer? Okay, guys, so let's go ahead. I know that you're already working on 1.11, okay, but let's go ahead and do this video first, just to write your first superclass and subclass. Okay, so I'm going to put in an intermediate assignment in there, just to kind of alleviate any difficulty. Okay, good luck.